Today is the last day of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is always enjoyable, but I think we all appreciated it this year because of what's going on. It was very much a welcome break, seeing the lights of the menorah, spending time together. Last night we had a great program in partnership with Emek. We had about 59 cars, a fire show, very safe, but very, very entertaining. And that was a nice capstone to the Yontif of Hanukkah. Switching gears now to the Parsha, Mikeitz, there's a Ramban that I've always enjoyed sharing every year. The real question that people wonder is that when the brothers came down to Egypt because of the famine, and they meet Yosef face to face. Now granted, he's older, and he is in the dress of the second in command. He's a king, or second to the king in Mitzrayim. But how is it that they didn't recognize him? And the Gemara actually dwells on this point because it's a very curious point. The Pasuk says clearly that Yosef recognized his brothers and they didn't recognize him. And the Gemara's answer is because when Yosef left, he was only 17, he didn't have a full beard yet, and now he's appearing before them with a full beard, he's more mature, and that threw them. And I've always likened that to, if you don't mind the example, Clark Kent, and no one recognized him as Superman because he wore horn-rimmed glasses, and that threw everybody. And it seems to be really begging the limits of credulity, because if you know somebody, you recognize their voice and you recognize the mannerisms. How was Yosef able to disguise himself so well? And the Ramban says, after going back and forth, that basically it comes down to human nature. They couldn't believe that they were wrong. All of these years, they were convinced that Yosef was a threat. He had to be eliminated. And however they poskined, they decided the case. They removed him from the scene. And therefore, the man standing before their very eyes, no matter how similar and no matter how his voice sounded and everything else that goes into a person's persona, they weren't able to accept that it was Yosef. The message is that we believe what we want to believe with all of our biases and prejudices. And we see what we want to see, we hear what we want to hear. And that's probably a major cause of the polarization in the country today. And probably, perennially, that's why there is machlokas. Because if somebody adopts a certain attitude or an opinion, it's very hard to move them from that opinion. And unfortunately, one can go through life believing something which is truly patently false, and that was next week the surprise and the devastation of the brothers, that what they believed to be true was really wrong. So it's a lesson for life to be open-minded, obviously, but to try to see things from the other perspective. You don't have to agree with it, but maybe just trying to entertain it for a moment or two can give a better picture, more clarity, more honesty. And I'm sure if we adopted that, we would have shalom bayis. It would improve within our own homes and within our community, within Klal Yisrael, and the world at large. Just one more comment. I was very honored to be a part of the OU West Coast keynote address last night. It was a taped conversation with Rabbis Muskin and Top, and you can still access it. It's an interesting conversation about how the shuls are navigating the whole crisis of COVID, and you can look for the information in the bulletin. It's basically ou.org with a /Torah LA. So if you want to tune in and catch it, I'd like to believe it was very helpful and it was also informative. Everyone should have whatever's left of Hanukkah, enjoy, and a wonderful Shabbos.